Imagine the roar of the sea crashing against the Normandy coast on June 6, 1944. It's just before dawn, and the sky is a bruised purple, streaked with the fiery trails of tracer bullets. Young men, barely out of their teens, cling to the sides of landing craft that bob like corks in a storm. Their faces are pale, etched with fear and resolve. As the ramp drops and they charge into a wall of machine gun fire, exploding shells, and jagged obstacles rising from the surf like the teeth of some ancient monster. This is D-Day, the greatest amphibious invasion in history. The turning point that would crack the Nazi grip on Europe. But as the first waves hit the beaches, Gold, Juno, Sword, they don't just face bullets. The sand sucks at their boots like quicksand. Mines detonate in sprays of shrapnel. Concrete bunkers spit death from hidden slits. And anti-tank barriers tangle their legs like barbed wire from hell. Hundreds fall in minutes, bodies washing back with the tide. It could have been a slaughter, a repeat of the bloodbath at Dieppe 2 years earlier. But it wasn't. Because waiting in the waves, bobbing strangely alongside the infantrymen, were machines that looked like they belonged in a mad inventor's dream. Tanks with skirts of canvas that billowed like sails. Armored beasts whipping chains like flails from a medieval torturer's kit. Giants that spat fire or hurled explosive dustbins at fortified walls. These weren't ordinary tanks. They were Hobart's funnies. The quirky, brilliant inventions that turned potential disaster into Allied triumph. And at the heart of it all was one man, a stubborn British general with a mustache like a broom and a mind sharper than a bayonet. Percy Hobart. This is the story of how his crazy ideas didn't just save D-Day, they changed the face of warfare forever. Stick around, because what these machines did on those blood-soaked beaches will make you rethink everything you know about World War II's greatest heroes. Not the generals in starched uniforms, but the engineers in grease-stained overalls who built victory from scrap and ingenuity. Let's rewind the clock to August 19, 1942. The cliffs of Dieppe, France, a sleepy coastal town under German occupation, loom over the English Channel like silent sentinels. It's Operation Jubilee, a daring Allied raid meant to test the waters for a full invasion. Over 6,000 troops, mostly Canadians, pour ashore in Higgins boats, supported by a handful of standard tanks. The plan? Hit hard, grab intel on defenses, and get out in hours. But from the moment the ramps drop, it's chaos. The beaches are a nightmare of pebbles and shingle that bog down the treads of every Churchill and Sherman that dares to land. German artillery pounds the exposed craft from clifftop batteries, while machine gun nests rake the shallows. Those few tanks that make it to dry land, they're funneled into kill zones by concrete tetrahedrals, massive steel spikes angled to impale vehicles, and wooden hedgehogs that snag their underbellies. Mines erupt in fountains of sand and flesh. By noon, over 900 are dead, 1,000 wounded, and 2,000 captured. The tanks? Most are destroyed or abandoned, their crews picked off like ducks in a shooting gallery. Winston Churchill himself calls it a costly failure, but in the smoke and sorrow a lesson burns bright. You can't invade Fortress Europe with yesterday's weapons. The beaches aren't just sand. They're minefields, obstacle courses, and fortresses rolled into one. To crack them, the Allies need something new, something funny. Enter Percy Cleghorn Stanley Hobart. Born in 1885 to a family of Nizam of Hyderabad civil servants, Percy, or PC to his mates, was always the odd one out. A lanky Eton boy with a passion for machines, he joined the Royal Engineers in 1904, fresh-faced and full of fire. By World War I, he's charging across no man's land at Gallipoli, then commanding armored cars in the deserts of Mesopotamia, where the punishing heat and endless dunes teach him the brutal truth. Tanks aren't invincible gods of steel. They're temperamental beasts that need clever handling to thrive. After the war, Hobart becomes a prophet without honor in his own land. He pores over blueprints in smoky officers' messes, sketching ideas for faster, tougher vehicles that can cross trenches, ford rivers, and shrug off bullets. But the British Army, stuffed with tradition and penny-pinching admirals, laughs him off. Hobart's hobby horses, they sneer. By the 1930s, he's designing what would become the famous cruiser tanks, but his outspoken criticism of the brass, calling out their ivory tower tactics, gets him drummed out of the service in 1940. Reinstated only after Churchill personally intervenes, Hobart finds himself sidelined to Home Guard duties, training civilians with broomsticks. It's a humiliating exile for a man who dreams in gears and gunpowder. But fate, that sly mechanic, has other plans. As the Dieppe disaster reports flood Whitehall, General Sir Alan Brooke, the steely-eyed chief of the Imperial General Staff, remembers Hobart's wild ideas. In early 1943, he summons the disgraced Major General to a dimly lit war room. "Percy," Brooke says, sliding a folder across the table, "we're going back to France, and you're going to make sure we don't get our arses kicked off the beach again." Hobart's eyes light up like a kid in a junkyard. At 58, he's given command of the newly formed 79th Armored Division. His mission? Invent the tools to tame the untamable. Beaches that swallow tanks whole and defenses that chew men up. No budget is too small, no idea too outlandish. Hobart dives in, assembling a ragtag team of engineers, welders, and tinkerers in the muddy fields of southern England. Factories hum from dawn to dusk. AEC in Leeds churning out prototypes. Churchill tanks gutted and reborn in secretive sheds. What emerges isn't an army of clones, but a circus of contraptions, each weirder than the last. The troops who first see them in training, they double over laughing. "What the hell are these, Governor?" one private quips, eyeing a tank with what looks like a giant hula hoop. Hobart just grins through his walrus mustache. "Funnies," he declares. "Hobart's funnies. And they'll save your bloody lives." First up, the star of the show. The duplex drive, or DD tank. Picture a Sherman M4. That reliable workhorse with its 75mm gun and sloped hull, but tricked out like a Venetian gondola. Engineers wrap it in a collapsible canvas skirt, up to 6 feet high, sealed with rubber gaskets and inflated by bilge pumps. Twin propellers churn the water from the back, powered by the tank's own engine in duplex mode. Tracks for land, screws for sea. It can swim at 7 knots, floating high enough to keep the turret above water. The idea? Launch these bad boys miles offshore from landing craft. Let them paddle in under their own steam, then drop the skirt once they're beached, and charge like angry bulls. Hobart's team tests them in the cold Solent tides, tanks bobbing like ducks while crewmen inside sweat bullets, praying the canvas holds. Early trials are a comedy of errors. One prototype flips like a pancake in a swell, another snags its skirt on a buoy and sinks like a stone. But Hobart's relentless. "Iterate, lads," he barks, sleeves rolled up, wading chest-deep to haul wreckage ashore. By spring 1944, they've got it right. Over 700 DDs ready for D-Day, crewed by brave souls who nickname them Donald Ducks for their quacking propellers. These aren't just tanks. They're the vanguard, the floating shields that would give infantry their first taste of armored cover. But swimming in is one thing. Getting off the beach alive is another. Enter the Crab, a Sherman reborn as a mechanical reaper. Forget the scythe. This one's got a flail. Mounted on the front is a rotating drum, 9 feet wide, studded with 30 steel chains tipped with tennis ball-sized weights. Powered by the tank's engine via a PTO shaft, it whirls at 110 RPM, lashing the ground ahead like a biblical plague. Mines. They detonate harmlessly under the barrage, chains whipping them into oblivion before the treads roll over. The inspiration? Hobart's boys adapt the Matilda Scorpion from El Alamein, where flails first danced across North African sands in 1942. Now, on English proving grounds, crabs prowl minefields, their drivers grinning maniacally as explosions bloom like fireworks. "It's like driving a possessed lawnmower," one sergeant jokes, but he knows the truth. Without the crab, every inch of sand could be a grave. Then there's the heavy lifter, the Churchill AVRE, Armored Vehicle Royal Engineers. Take the squat brick-like Churchill tank, famed for climbing sheer walls and soaking up punishment, and gut its turret. In its place, a stubby spigot mortar called the petard, lobbing 40-pound flying dustbins, high explosive charges shaped like oversized trash cans, at 250 feet per second. These aren't precision shells. They're bunker busters, slamming into concrete with the force of a wrecking ball, blasting pillboxes to rubble. But the AVRE's a Swiss Army knife on tracks. Slap on a bobbin, a massive reel of reinforced canvas matting, and it unrolls a 10-foot-wide carpet over soft sand, letting follow-on tanks rumble across without sinking hub-deep. Need to fill a crater or anti-tank ditch? Load it with a fascine, a 30-foot bundle of brushwood and timber weighing 2 tons, then tip it over the edge like a felled tree, creating a ford for the column behind. Or fit the small box girder, a 30-foot folding bridge that snaps out in seconds, spanning gaps or scaling seawalls up to 15 feet high. And for the really tough nuts, the double onion, 2 football-sized charges on a pole, rammed against a fortified wall and detonated by cable, turning stone to dust. AVRE crews, mostly Royal Engineers with one armored driver, train in the pouring rain of East Anglia, practicing drops and blasts until their hands bleed from the petard's recoil. "We're not soldiers," one sapper mutters over tea. "We're bloody plumbers with guns." But Hobart knows better. These men are the unsung poets of destruction, turning chaos into corridors. Don't forget the fire breather, the Churchill Crocodile. Same hulking Churchill chassis, but now towing a 4.5-ton trailer of armored fuel, 400 gallons of thickened flame fuel, pressurized like a fire hose from hell. A pipe snakes from the trailer to the tank's belly, replacing the bow machine gun with a flamethrower nozzle. Squeeze the trigger, and it hurls a 120-yard jet of jellied fire, sticky as napalm, burning at 2,000 degrees. Bunkers? Trenches? Machine gun nests? They become infernos, the psychological shock alone routing defenders who flee screaming from the roar. Tests in Scottish moors leave blackened scars and awestruck observers. "It's the devil's own breath," a major whispers. Hobart nods. "Good. Let Jerry think that." "And the bridges?" "Oh, the Arca, armored ramp carrier. Strip a Churchill of its turret. Weld on scissor ramps fore and aft, each 25 feet long. Drive it into a bomb crater or riverbank, unfold the ramps like a metal drawbridge, and you've got an instant span for 40 tons of traffic. Stack 2 arcs end to end, and you cross a chasm." Improvised from wrecked tanks in Italy, they're Hobart's nod to WWII Fascine pioneers, but mechanized for the modern maelstrom. Lurking in the shadows are the oddballs. Armored bulldozers, Caterpillar D7s plated in inch-thick steel, their blades shoving tetrahedrals aside like toys. The Canal Defense Light, a Grant tank with a 13 million candle power searchlight turret, turning night into noonday glare to blind snipers. And the Buffaloes, American LVTs, tracked amphibians that waddle from sea to shore, ferrying troops and jeeps through surf too rough for DDs. By early 1944, Hobart's got his brigade polished. He marches them before the bigwigs, Eisenhower, Montgomery, at a muddy demo in southern England. Tanks swim, flails whip, dustbins fly, flames roar. Monty slaps Hobart on the back. "Percy, you've given us the edge." Ike's impressed too, ordering DDs for all beaches. But when he offers the full suite to the Yanks, General Bradley balks. "Too specialized," he grumbles. "Logistics nightmare." Only a token force, the 42nd Assault Brigade, gets earmarked for Omaha. The rest? British and Canadian beaches only. Hobart fumes privately but presses on. Training intensifies. Crews simulate H-hour in raging gales. Officers pore over aerial photos of the Atlantic Wall. "Remember Dieppe," Hobart tells them in gravelly briefings. "We're not raiding, we're staying, and these funnies are our ticket home." Hour -1. The Armada stretches to the horizon. 7,000 vessels, 200,000 men. Aboard LCT 357 off Gold Beach, Sergeant Tom Harris grips the rail, seasick and scared. He's Avra commander, his Churchill loaded with a fascine. "God, it's rough," he mutters to his driver, young Billy from Birmingham. Below decks, the funnies strain at their lashings, engines idling like caged lions. Weather's foul. Winds howling 20 knots. Waves cresting 8 feet. Eisenhower's clock ticks. Abort or go? At 0600, the order crackles. Full ahead. Ramps drop 2 miles out. First in, the DDs. On Sword Beach, Lieutenant John Duty's Sherman hits the water, skirt puffing up like a life preserver. Propellers bite and she's off, churning toward shore at 4 knots. "Keep her steady!" Duty yells over the engine's growl. Half a mile out, a rogue wave slaps her broadside. Canvas tears. Water floods the engine. Duty's tank founders, crew swimming for it as bullets stitch the sea. But most make it. 96% on Sword, 80% on Juno. They beach, skirts drop with a whoosh, and 75 mm bark, suppressing pillboxes as infantry wades in behind. On Gold, the crabs go next. Corporal Reg Spittles guns his Sherman forward, flail arm raised like a praying mantis. The drum spins up, thwack, 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 chains lashing sand. Mines pop like firecrackers. Boom! A teller mine flips skyward, harmless. Boom! Another showering dirt. Spittles whoops, "Eat that, you bastards!" His path clears for the follow-on wave, treads chewing safe corridor through the Devil's Garden. But not all luck holds. Off Juno, a crab snags a hidden teller. The blast rips the flail clean off, flipping the tank. Crew bails, one leg shattered, dragging his mate to cover under fire. "Keep moving!" Their lieutenant screams. They do, limping to a wrecked LCT for aid. Now the AVREs. Harris's boat grounds 200 yards out. Too far. Waves too high. "Wade in, lads!" he roars. Crew sloshes ashore, waist deep, dragging Bangalore torpedoes to blast gaps in the wire. His Avery follows, turret swiveling. A German 88 Mutter cracks from a cliff top. Shell screams past, gouging sand. Harris spots the target, a concrete casement spitting tracers. "Petard, load dustbin!" The spigot thumps. The charge arcs like a mortar round slamming home. Kaboom! Concrete shatters, screams echo from within. "Got the buggers?" Billy cheers, but a ricochet pings the hull. Undeterred, Harris pivots to a crater, 20 feet wide, cratered by naval shells. "Fascine away!" The bundle tumbles, filling the void. Behind, a column of Shermans rolls over, guns blazing inland. Further east on Juno, at Grey-sur-Mer, an Havre crew faces hell. Their bobbin unreels carpet over shingle, but a Panther tank ambushes from a dune. 75mm round punches the AVRE's track. She's immobile, a sitting duck. Sapper Joe Ellis, the demolitions man, grabs the double onion. Under fire, he dashes 50 yards, plants the charges against the Panther's flank. Cable snakes back. He dives. Detonation rocks the beach. Boom! The big cat's turret spins off like a bottle cap. Ellis's mates haul him aboard. He's nicked by shrapnel, but alive. Just another day at the office, he gasps, lighting a fag as medics patch him. That AVRA? Later buried in a shell hole as cover, unearthed post-war. It's now a memorial to the sappers who paid in blood. Fire joins the fray. On sword, a crocodile lumbers up, trailer hissing. Trooper Frank Wilson aims at a trench line 80 yards out. Flame erupts, a 150-foot serpent of orange hell, engulfing the position. Germans bolt, uniforms ablaze, weapons dropped. They ran like rabbits, Wilson recalls post-war, voice steady but eyes distant. War's ugly, but that ended it quick. No more mates dying to those positions. The psycho shock ripples. Word spreads. The English have dragons, and sectors fall silent. Arcs shine inland. At the Orne River mouth, a gap yawns, 30 feet of muddy void from bombing. Driver Mick O'Leary noses his ramp carrier forward, ramps unfolding with hydraulic winds. Vehicles stream across. Bren carriers, jeeps, a priest self-propelled gun. Like crossing the bloody Thames on wheels, O'Leary laughs later. But on Gold, one arc takes a direct hit, 80 Timofetters through the engine. Crew escapes, but the machine burns, a pyre lighting the advance. Bulldozers prowl the aftermath, blades low. A D-7 on Juno shoves a forest of hedgehogs into the tide, clearing lanes for supplies. Its driver, shielded by slat armor, feels the ground tremble from nearby blasts. Eyes on the wire, not the sky, he mutters, a mantra against fear. By noon, the beaches are allied. Gold's taken with 1,000 casualties, not the 10,000 feared. Juno's secured, Canadians pushing 5 miles inland. Swords a dagger to the heart of defenses. Funny's losses? Heavy. Half the DDs to weather, a third of AVREs to fire. But they buy time and lives. Omaha, without them? Carnage. 2,400 Americans down. Tanks bogged or blasted. Utah fares better with partial DDs, but the what-ifs haunt historians. Bradley's gamble costs dear. Post-war, he admits. We could have used more of Percy's toys. As the sun dips, funnies press on. Kangaroos, turretless rams repurposed as APCs, ferry infantry through bocage hedgerows, keeping pace with armor. Buffaloes ford flooded marshes, hauling ammo crates. Crabs flail inland minefields. Crocodiles flush snipers from villages. In the Falaise pocket weeks later, arcs bridge the chaos, trapping thousands of Germans. By Rhine crossing in 45, buffaloes swarm the river, funnies paving the road to Berlin. Percy Hobart watches from England at first, then joins the fray, directing from a staff car with maps fluttering like battle flags. Knighted in 1945, he retires post-war, tinkering in his garden shed until 56. Dead at 71, he's buried quietly, but his legacy rumbles on. Modern breachers? Descended from Avries. Mine clearers? Krabkin. The Israeli D-9 Dozer. The Soviet IMR. Hobart's fingerprints everywhere. So next time you picture D-Day, don't just see the paratroopers or the Higgins boats. See the funnies. The swimming Shermans ghosting through fog. The flailing crabs dancing death. The fire-spitting crocodiles. The bridging arcs like mechanical angels. See the men inside. Harris, Spittles, Ellis, Wilson, ordinary blokes with extraordinary grit, turning nightmare into foothold. They weren't flashy aces or iron-fisted marshals. They were the quiet innovators, the grease monkeys and dreamers who proved that in war, the weirdest weapon often wins. Hobart's funnies didn't just breach the beaches. They breached the myth that heroes ride in on glory alone. They remind us, sometimes victory floats in on canvas wings, whips across with chains, or burns through with flame. And in the end, it's the crazy ideas, the funnies, that free the world. Thanks for joining me on this dive into D-Day's hidden heart. If this tale of tanks and tenacity hooked you, hit like, subscribe for more WWII wonders, and drop a comment. What's your favorite unsung gadget of the war? Until next time, keep questioning the front lines.